Is there an active search going on for her, for our little Caylee right now?
Oh, absolutely, and by that I mean is that we're still talking to people, we're still trying to put a timeline together, we're trying to put all the puzzles together to see, you know, where she may very well be. And by that what I mean is, obviously, keep in mind that we were 5.5 weeks into this. You know, we were at a disadvantage. We were behind the 8 ball because if she had been reported, let's say the first minute would have been nice, but the first 24 hours, we would have been probably ahead of the game here, but that was not the case. But we are looking for her, and we're going to use every avenue and every resource that we can until we exhaust, and I don't know if that'll ever become, that'll ever happen.
Can you comment at all on, like, what kind of active searching? Is it foot searching, air searching, water searching?
Well, you know, again, there's certain things that we're not going to be able to discuss just because of the integrity of the case. But I can say that we are looking for her. We're still looking at all the tips, and so we're doing everything that we can to find her.
Because of the time that's passed and the possibility that she's not alive, have you guys consulted with forensic or with pathologists to talk to you about what condition the body possibly could be in at the stages, because what they would be looking for?
I'm not aware if the detectives have done that or not. They have never stated to me whether they actually have or not.
But I think you can understand why I'm asking the question.
Sure.
You're not looking for someone who's recently deceased. We're talking about 5-6 weeks into possible.
Yeah, we're talking probably going on 8 weeks now, and that's correct. And again, you know, we have to look at all the possibilities. But again, you know, we have a missing child. We don't have anything right now to indicate that we have anything else but a missing child. But we are going to look at everything we have to proceed.
Now, I know they're probably getting close to releasing forensics from the car. Is that information going to become public and released to the media, or is that going to be kept quiet for a possible trial?
I don't want to say we're going to keep quiet, but before we release any information concerning that, we have to see where the case is at that point. And when we feel that it's prudent to release that information and that it's going to be advantageous to the case, that's when we're going to do it.
Are you expecting to get that this week?
They're hoping to get it as soon as possible. Don't know really a time frame. And I can say this, I've met several times with the chiefs and everything, and we don't have the results yet, because I know there have been questions as to whether we have it or we don't. I can say we don't.
Coming up, the timeline. Monday, June 16th is the last day that Caylee Anthony's grandparents saw the little girl. And tonight, we have detailed phone records of who Caylee's now jailed mother was calling that day. Join us live on the ground in Orlando is On the Record producer Steph Watt. All right, Steph, let's talk about these phone records. Can you tell me, you're going to go ahead and refer to the records yourself, but what happened on Monday beginning about 4:10? Well, actually, Greta, let me back up. It started at 3:03 p.m.
Okay, Greta, and let me just back up a little bit for you, just to set the stage a little bit. Don't forget, at 12:50, just before 1 p.m., George claims that he saw Casey and Caylee leave the house. Then George himself leaves the house at 2:30. Now, let's jump ahead. Casey's making phone calls on her cell phone. 3:03 p.m., she calls her dad on his cell phone. 4:10, she calls her mom at work. 4:11, she calls her mom on her cell phone. 4:13, she calls her mom on her cell phone. 4:14, she calls her mom at work. 4:19, she calls Tony Lazaro. 4:21, she calls Jesse Grund. 4:24, mom on her cell. 6:32, mom on home phone. 6:33, voicemail. 7:06, mom home. And 7:20, she calls her friend Amy. Now, if you notice, Greta, these calls that are a minute apart, if I call you and I get your voicemail and I hang up, that registers as a minute.
All right, tell me, let's get the names. Tony Lazaro, that's her boyfriend?
Yeah, Tony Anthony is the boyfriend who is the promoter at Club Fusion, which we're going to take a look at a little later on in the show. And Amy Huzanga is the girl that the mother found the resume in the car, and she was the one who took Cindy to where Casey was. And Casey was using her car that week while Amy was away, and unfortunately Casey also stole money from her and checks.
All right. Now, in all fairness, if you looked at my phone records, you know, it might show a flurry of phone calls as well. But nonetheless, it's just a piece of the puzzle. All right, now, you don't have anything for the next day, Tuesday, do you? You suddenly jumped to Wednesday. Why don't you have Tuesday's records?
Well, Greta, it's interesting because the 17th seems to be sort of a blurry day for us in this timeline. As you know, you and I are working this story. We're trying to put this timeline together. The 17th We haven't come up with the records yet. We don't know what was happening on the 17th. Of course, obviously very curious as to what was going on the 17th. The next phone records we have are the 18th, and again, that date is significant because that's the date that Casey borrowed the shovel from the neighbor.
All right, and so give me the list of calls on the 18th for which we have records.
Sure. Again, on the 18th, and again, we don't know what time exactly she borrowed the shovel from, but on the 18th at 12:33 p.m., she calls mom at home. 12:34, mom's cell. 12:35, mom at home. 12:36, dad's cell. 1:09, mom's cell. 1:11, mom home.
All right. Now, in terms of the June 16th phone calls that you first recited, do you have any idea whether it pinged off a tower near her home to indicate that she was likely making or could have been making those calls from home?
Well, that's a good question, Greta, and I'm sure investigators are taking a look at that. They obviously haven't released that information to us because it's part of their ongoing investigation. But now remember, the last phone call she made was 7:20 to Amy. There's no incoming or outgoing calls on Casey's cell phone, Greta, until 11 a.m. the next day.
All right, Steph, thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up, evidence is mounting against Casey Anthony, and she is growing more isolated. 3 consecutive jailhouse visits with her family canceled. Casey says she's trying to protect her missing daughter. The legal panel is here. Stick around.